Couple hours closer to having those couple of days off here on Afternoons Live, and we are broadcasting live from Swing Barrel Brewing in Moorhead. Center Avenue is wide open. There were shouts across the street as businesses now have that easy access for you to come and check them out, whether that's Starbird Lounge across the street or, of course, Swing Barrel right here, where they're having their 6th birthday bash tomorrow, starting at noon, going all the way to 11 o'clock tomorrow night. And since we're in Moorhead, I figured, well, we better contact our friend, that's State Senator Rob Kupec, who joins us over at Swing Barrel. Senator, welcome back.
Yeah, it was a real arm twister to ask me to come to Swing Barrel.
Yeah, I imagine, yeah. Well, I said, hey, you free at 4? Yep, I'll be there.
Yeah.
Glad to have you here. You've been traveling a lot, though, so I didn't know if you were going to be here.
Yeah, it's been, we've had a little bit of official side business this week. Still Senator, still got that going on. We met, had some ag committee folks up, and we met with some sugar beet growers up in Norman County. And then also I'm on the Veterans and Military Affairs Subcommittee, and we went up to take a look at the air base up in Duluth because they're trying to they have F-16s right now. They're trying to transition to F-35s. The number of air guards that are going to have F-35s will be small, and we put some money in the bonding bill to give them some new facilities that'll help make the cause with the federal government that they should be one of the bases that has F-35s.
Well, it helps when the state's bought in. I know that, whether you're a state lawmaker, you want to see if there's local buy-in. The same thing goes from the state to the feds. As if there's a buy-in from the locals, then, you kind of catch people's attentions. Sugar beets, I want to talk. It's been dry. I was just watching you look at the radar. This drought we've been in has been tough out there.
It is, and we were up in Norman County, up by Hallstatt, and that's almost like the ground zero of the area that they've now upgraded into severe drought. And the sugar beets there, they kind of look like late June sugar beets coming out of the ground. So the sugar content is really high, so that's good. But because some of them are so small, some of the machine that comes through and takes the leaves off, it's going to have some difficulty, I think, distinguishing, what is in there and what is not. So it's going to be a tough part. Plus the ground. If we don't get some rain, it is so hard. It's going to be hard pulling those beets out. But.
Well, and I've been watching, obviously on my side of the river. I didn't grow up with sugar beets. We had barley, we had wheat, we had corn, soybeans. They've had some moisture back home. Here in the valley, though, I've been seeing some of the corn cobs that people have been pulling off just to show how small they've been. You're a former current meteorologist. I don't even know what question to ask you. We're in this cycle. It feels like forever this year.
Yeah, and it's thunderstorms, so it's always hit and miss in nature. And that area did catch a little bit of rain on Wednesday night, so that was good for them up there. But it's Trail, it's Norman, it's into Polk, Grand Forks, Northern Cass, Northwest Clay. That's the area. It's like everything has missed them up until now. It's gone south, it's gone north, and that area in particularly is the driest of the dry.
Yeah, we have that feast or famine when it comes to the weather in this part of the world, and it seems like we have been in a lot of famine when it comes to that moisture. Back to the legislative duties. Obviously, the session comes up after an election. I do have to ask you, we just got done with a August primary just, 2 weeks ago. Anything stand out to you in the results of that? I wasn't surprised, I guess, necessarily by who won some of these races. I was shocked at the margin of some of those wins, but I want to hear from you on that.
Yeah, well, a couple of things. I think, on the statewide races, some of the polling has gotten more and more difficult, and for a primary, there were some bad polls out ahead of the race.
Absolutely.
And so I think some of the margins, I'm not completely surprised that Peggy Flanagan won the Senate primary. I was surprised at how big the margin was. Absolutely.
And words come out now that there's some actors out there that are putting out bad polls on purpose. I don't know if that's in Minnesota, but it's something that's been kind of injected into this election is just very bad polls, because you're right. There were some polls that showed Angie Craig, Peggy Flanagan neck and neck, and it was not on election night. It was pretty overwhelming. You're obviously going on to the November. We got this campaign underway. Do you like having an August primary?
So here's the deal. We were talking about this. Like, where would you move it to? Because
June.
Yes, June. But we're still, we are in a legislative session up until
fair.
May,
okay.
And I think as it is, you're always kind of thinking about the next election, but you need to be concentrating on the work that you need to be doing in St. Paul. And if you moved at a primary up to June, I think that would run afoul a lot of probably getting the work done at the legislature.
That's fair. And July is a lost cause for anything of importance because people are thinking Lakes, 4th of July. They don't want to be thinking about, okay, I need to go find my polling place.
Yes. So a little bit of a runway in the state legislature, and even. I was thinking about it even for the congressional race. I think, part of the problem that Angie Craig had was she was tied up in Washington a lot, and she did not – I don't think she got to get out and see as much of Minnesota as she possibly could have in an election. And meanwhile, the lieutenant governor – who's here as lieutenant governor traveling around the state and then has that ability through June and July to hit up all those places.
Yeah, that's a fair point. Well, I'd ask, because obviously this season is upon us. Somebody was wondering, you're going to be shocked about this in our text club at 35270. Ask Rob if DraftKings will ever get legalized in Minnesota.
I'm happy to answer that every time. It's, if you could go on the predictive market and make a bet on that would happen. It's such a weird breakdown in the legislature of how it does not.
It's not a partisan issue.
It is not at all a partisan issue. And there's Democrats and Republicans who are just as passionate against it as those that are for it.
Yeah, so. That's one of those issues that the party line draw is very unique. This is now a point of contention, and it's not a Minnesota thing, it's a national thing. Flock cameras, they're here. They're in the metro area. I saw that some colleagues in the legislature are going to be offering some legislation again to try to wrangle that in. I'm just curious your thoughts on flock cameras here.
What you don't want, and this is always the problem when you contract out with a private entity like a flock, is that you do not have the control that you would like over that data and who that's getting shared with and used. I mean, there are things where those cameras are really important. For instance, we have had a huge problem in parts of Moorhead with street racers. And they have been able to put some of those cameras in those places where they're street racing and figure out who those people were.
Okay.
And guess what? They left that area. They moved to an area. They found another one where there weren't any cameras. But it is always a super delicate balance between, trying to figure out and catch bad guys and not trample on people's civil liberties.
Yeah, right.
And probably, the worry that you have, particularly with these flock cameras, is that they're going to be used to track people that you shouldn't be tracking. They're not going after criminals or people that are bad actors.
See, and that's why if I were back in one of those chairs that you are currently in, I would very much entertain the conversation because, as you just pointed out, there's good that can be used in these. I know some people just want to nope, none whatsoever. Same with data centers in that conversation, but there is a benefit to some of it. People are using smart apps, are using AI, so guess what? You have to have the storage capacity, hence data centers.
Right.
When it comes to the flock cameras, the only way you're going to get the assurance that it's not being abused, in my opinion, is if you have some ordinance or a state law that prohibits the retention or a third party from abusing that data being retained. So I would entertain it because people just want some assurance that, hey, if you're not doing anything wrong, we're not actually monitoring you, but people don't want to believe that at face value.
And you're absolutely right. And so the devil will be in the details. Can we put up firewalls that would protect it? Otherwise, I would say then I would not be in favor of having them there. But you also need to remember, think about in your personal life all of the things you are posting on social media and putting out there. And it's just so I have discovered, and maybe I'm late to this guy, but there's this guy, Jose Monkey. And he says, find me, Jose Monkey. And you just do a twirl around. And the things, and he doesn't use Google Lens. He says, I'm not doing that. I'll do it. But the way he is able to figure out where you are by just a couple of clues in that video, you're not, whatever you're showing when you're posting, you're not, it's really easy to figure out. And this guy, he's wildly entertaining. I suggest you watch him.
Okay, I'll watch, but I'm not playing along. That's what I'll say. Rob Kupec, our guest state senator over here in Minnesota, as we're hanging out at Swing Barrel Brewing. The difference in that, in my opinion, and it's just my opinion, when when we're posting on, or if we have our phones, we can shut our location off. I encourage people to do that.
Right.
I know of some people in this line of work that share their location with everybody. I ain't one of them. This is a different type of monitoring that we're not buying into. But I can tell you this, Senator, when I brought up Flock, I think it was 2 weeks ago, Flock Safety emailed me directly during that conversation saying, hey, remember that trailer that was stolen by the Veterans Honor Flight? We used the Flock Safety cameras to find who did it. So there's benefits to it. It's just some of the guardrails.
And every time if you watch any British crime drama, go to the CCTV, right? The closed caption TV. The amount we are way behind.
Yeah,
and I'm not saying this is a good thing, but it is incredible when you get over to Europe. Everything, you are always under surveillance. And I don't know that that's a good thing. I don't think we want to be in that surveillance state, but it is, I think we've got to find where the balance is on that.
This next legislative session, we got bonding that we're taking care of, but what are some of those big items that we're looking at that need to be accomplished here?
Yeah, I think, the biggest thing I think that's going to be forced upon us is what we're going to do with H.R. 1. We know that there's going to be a lot of cuts coming, and particularly in Minnesota, we do social services at the county level, so we know our counties are going to be under an enormous strain.
Medicaid cuts big time.
Absolutely. SNAP benefits that you're going to have to pay more to administer fewer benefits. And so we're going to need to figure out as a state, how are we going to help our counties? Because, when I talk to county commissioners, they're saying, don't take away inflation, take away health insurance going up, take away raises to people. We're probably looking at a 6% property tax increase just to meet H.R. 1.
Wow.
And so we need to, as a state, figure out how we are going to help our county partners in meeting this challenge that's coming from the federal government.
Well, I'm glad you're talking about it now because H.R. 1, of course, for those of you that are listening, is that big, beautiful bill that was passed at the beginning of the last Congress that some of those delayed cuts are coming after this midterm election. That was done by design to offset some of the negatives that they don't want you knowing about before you go cast your ballot here in November. Senator, anything I missed? I just wanted to get caught up with you. You've been a busy man.
Yeah, I would also say, the next legislative session, things around, anything that's around affordability, things that we can do. And like the other thing I told, sugar beet growers when I was meeting with them, sometimes the biggest thing we can do as a state is don't put anything else on their back because they're already sugar's in a tough spot, other commodities that they grow, corn, soy, all in a tough spot. Let's not dump anything else on them as a state and see what we can do, to help them in other ways. But let's not put any more burdens upon them.
It's a wise take, I would say, and I'm sure very appreciated by those that were listening. Senator, it's always a pleasure. We'll do this again soon here in a couple weeks, all right?
Absolutely. Sounds good. I'll get a beer now.
Sounds good. State Senator Rob Kupec. You could join him for a beverage. We're hanging out over at Swing Barrel. It's right on Center Avenue, which is now open. And, of course, this place, I think people found that excuse that I was referring to, saying, you know what, whatever you got to tell the boss, just find it, then get over to Swing Barrel. And some of you have obliged that request, and I appreciate you joining us over here. We'll get you caught up with some of these messages, and we'll come back to more Afternoons Live right after this.